All right, we have started recording, and I'm sorry. There's so many different pieces here that I'm going to be a little discombobulated when I start here, but we'll get it worked out. I think things are already on. Hi everybody here. Can people on the Zoom? You can hear me, right? Can somebody in the Zoom unmute and say something so I can tell if I can hear anything?
We can hear you, Luke.
Ah, great. And I can hear you, which is the part I was less sure about. All right, great. So our opening slide is here. So I've got the camera set up. I may or may not be in the little circle, but we'll see how that works out. Uh, let's get started. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Luke McCormick. I'll have an intro slide coming up. And you are at web coding for non-coders using AI, of course. Uh, and let me kind of explain what you're in for here. This is going to be sort of a two-part session. I'm going to start off with a reasonably quick overview of the sort of relevant AI landscape. Um, and then I'm going to do a demo of some things to, uh, to bring it to speed. Uh, I should explain, I haven't been an AI guy for very long, which is why I feel I'm an appropriate choice to be your ambassador to this weird new AI world, because it's new to me too. And so I've learned like enough to get things done. But I'm still, it's all like, wow, I'm still in the stage of, you know, discovering wild new things every day. Um, and being baffled by terminology and being sort of astounded by news announcements that seem to redo everything that we thought we knew on like a week by week or day by day basis. Even with this, I've been tracking the AI news more closely than I normally do for the last 2 weeks as I've been coming up to this talk. And every day something comes out where I'm like, oh, I have to rewrite the whole thing. All the stuff I prepared is completely obsolete now. Um, but you can get over that. And in fact, that's kind of my purpose here. This is what I want to do is I want to um, see if I can guide other people over this step that I took myself very recently, um, of going from being totally baffled to feeling comfortable and excited at the possibilities and at the things that are that are part of it. So let's see, should I do my intro slide first? Let me get this out of the way. And I apologize, I've got lots of screens and unfamiliar things, and so I gotta click around. And let's see here. All right. So as I say, my name's Luke McCormick. I'm a uh, web solutions architect, and lots of other titles. So I always have to think about what title I'm using at the current thing. Um, I've been building websites since the start of the web. I had one of the first 1,000 sites on the World Wide Web, according to what was it, the time, the NCSA What's New page. I built Cisco's first intranet. I've done gigs with Apple, Accenture, and Acquia. I was a TAM for Acquia for a bit. Uh, I help run Badcamp, as do other people in this room. Um, and I've helped it with DrupalCon and blah, 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 blah. All right, anyway, let's actually get to the meat of the matter. I'm going to start off with a little story to sort of give you some sense as to how I got here. So a little bit over 2 months ago, now really like 2 months, I was in your shoes, if you're the audience that I was asking for, of, you know, sitting outside of AI, and I work in over lunch. I've been working at the job. I was working on a Drupal site and cleared the cache. For those of you that do Drupal, you're familiar with that. You do it like a zillion times. And I was, you know, feeling an annoyance that I felt for ever since I started using Drupal, 15 years ago, uh, where I know I should clear the cache, but I don't know why. Like it doesn't actually show you, no one knows what's in the cache. You just have to clear it. So I was like, these cache things. So I happen to have the Chat GPT app open, and I asked it, like, hey, are there any modules out there that can show you what's in the cache of a Drupal site? And ChatGPT went out and did its little searching thing and came back and said, no, there aren't any modules like that. And I was feeling disappointed, but then it immediately typed, if you were to write one, it would look like this. And I like spit out a bunch of code. And I looked at it and I was like, would you package that as a zip file I could download? And said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do that. Boom, 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 boom. 10 seconds later, there's a link to a zip file, which I clicked on, dragged into my modules folder, enabled, and it worked perfectly the first time. It was crazy. I've been thinking about this project for years, like over a decade. I've been thinking about writing this model, writing something that would show you the cache. Um, I Depending on how timing goes, I may fire it up so you can see actually what it spit out. But the point is, I had that blown mind emoji feeling, um, where I realized this, what I thought was a thing I was going to get to later. There's no waiting. I could do it now. And we'll do that over the course of this talk. The second half of the talk will be we'll do a live demo, um, which it's always an adventure. We'll see how that works out, but we'll go through the steps. I tried a similar thing, um, adding a feature to a module that I've wanted for a long time, and that worked. So for this demo, I'll replicate that one I know worked. But I almost feel wimpy doing that because my experience with these things, and maybe I'll catch this, is if I just picked something random that I hadn't tried before and just went after it, it would probably work because it's usually working these days. It's really kind of weird. You ask for things and wow, there they are. All right. So I'm going to give you actually one more bit of background on myself. Before my um, induction into the AI crowd that started 2 months ago, my whole thing was almost the opposite. I have a site called simplifiedrupal.com, and I've given talks at various conferences and have been passing things out. Uh, by the way, if you're in here, I've got handouts that you guys can pick up for Simplified Drupal. Um, and the idea there has always been to try to find ways that you're not enslaved to the code. That whoever owns the site, even if they hire programmers to do things, Simplify Drupal it was all about ways that after they leave, you can still manage your own site. And it's like a management side thing and not really related, but the way it relates to AI, and this is, you know, I didn't expect this. This was a discovered thing. Is that AI is another way to have that independence from gurus, as it were, and that can be even a consulting company that comes in and builds something for you and then leaves without really documenting it or doing training or that kind of things. Um, Before that, you were kind of up the creek. Always a button. It's all right. Uh, yeah, Bring your dogs to camp. Makes sense. Um, Lost my train of thought there. All right. Anyway, so it opens up the possibilities of being able to wrest back control of things that previously were out of reach. And we'll do a little bit of that later on. So I've gotten better at this. All right. So the next one, two, three, four, five. Next five slides cover three topics, kind of, and it's meant as sort of an intellectual underpinning. Because one thing I've noticed, one thing I experienced getting the AI world is there were lots of words being thrown around that that all the insiders kind of knew what they meant, but I didn't really know what they meant, and they seemed sort of baffling. So I'm going to try to de-baffle that stuff. It's actually not as complicated as it seems, but just people don't typically bother to to simplify it. Um, and everybody always wants to look smart, right? You want to, if you're in a conversation, you want to use all the acronyms and buzzwords and talk about the latest thing, and that's you know, it's good. Oh, let me check. Can everybody on the Zoom call hear and see things? Right? Somebody give me like a thumbs up or something, just so I could see. I have someone on the Zoom call in the room. All right. Uh, so this right here is a little list of kind of the major the major chat things that are out there. It's not a complete list. It'll never be a complete list. That's one of these things. Is this is one of those things that you know every week, every day, there's like a new one out, and people are always excited about features of the new one. But if you wrap your head around these, you're not far off. Everybody in the world knows ChatGPT at this point. And it's funny. The people, Eric Altman, the head of OpenAI, has been jokingly saying recently that if he had any idea that ChatGPT was going to be as popular as it's become, he would have given it a better name. But but by the time you got there, it was too late. However, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But the branding stuff is being worked out. Like even OpenAI says that by this summer they'll start, like, they care about it now. And so we're seeing last year's bugs in terms of the naming of things. But when that'll be getting better soon enough. All right, so let me actually quickly go through so you can read them as well as I can. But ChatGPT is the big bear in the woods. Anthropic is kind of the Pepsi to the ChatGPT to the OpenAI Coke. They're like the other one that's always in there fighting around. And then most of the rest are big existing tech companies that don't want to be left behind, and largely doing really well. I mean, Google's stuff is amazing. There's Gemini is their thing, but they actually have a whole bunch of products, and they're different, and they're really good. So definitely don't rule out Google. Uh, Microsoft Copilot is it's kind of different from the others, to be honest. It's so tightly integrated with their products that it feels different, and I haven't actually gotten much use of it. But I don't want to, because just because I haven't doesn't mean it's not very valuable to other things. And then, of course, you got you know Meta, formerly Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, the Chinese high performance one that came in a couple months ago and scared everybody because it was so powerful and so cheap. DeepSeek, and then two others that I was told to put in there. I don't actually know what they are. And you got to get used to that because you're constantly going to be, in you're not going to know all the things like ever again. You know, you out of you got to get used to that feeling of you know enough to get by. Eh, All right, so I we are now in two slides of what the heck are these things? How do they work? Like it seems magic, right? It seems, you know, they seem human. You type stuff, you tell jokes, they tell jokes back, you act sarcastic, like they respond the way you expect um, a human to respond. Uh, Kind of crazy human. We'll get to that later. We'll talk about hallucinations and stuff. So let me try to give you the idea is you'll hear the word model around. And it seems weird, right? Like, wait, why are we calling computer programs models? And the point is that they're not actually programs. They don't actually run, you know, from one place to another. They don't start here and end there. I mean, they have pieces of them that do that, but the fundamental thing is that they take like a huge block of knowledge. They'll take, all the text they can find on the internet, and by modeling it, um, meaning they'll break it down in all sorts of like little bitty ways, and it ends up being like on a phone when you're typing text or something, and it's predicting what word you might say next. It's kind of good. Like you look at it like, you know, half the time, maybe more, that next it's right. Like that is what you're about to say next. So this is like a hugely more powerful version of that. So you type something and it goes into its little brain, like throws it out and be like, okay, if somebody typed those words out in the universe somewhere, what would somebody have said back to them? And it assembles these things that literally just sound right. It's like, oh, it's almost like it's faking an accent, right? Like it doesn't. It's like repeating a joke that you don't understand the punchline to, but you can actually tell the words, and people will laugh if they get it, and even if you don't understand why that's funny, right? So that's what these things are doing. They don't think, they don't know if they're getting it right or being clever. They don't know. They're just echoing like a parrot does. You know, something that sounds plausible. And whereas a parrot can learn, 5 or 10 or outside cases, I guess like maybe 20 words at the end, and usually much less than that. You know, this thing can spit out, fully working Python program. But it's like a parrot. It just spews it out from its, billions of little processors and gets it done. Uh, as an aside, I want to actually point out that I'm going to encourage everybody here, everybody, watching in TV land, uh, to try them. I found it better than the web things. Several of them have downloadable Mac programs. I'm sure they have Windows programs too, but I'm on a Mac. And so I have the ChatGPT um, desktop app, and it's just fun to just have it there and just periodically toss things. As you're working, as you're playing, as you're hanging out, like if you wonder something, just toss it in there and see what it does. Um, the reason I'm saying that is because this diagram here was written by Claude. And I spend most of my time in OpenAI's ChatGPT probably for this sort of thing, but I just happened, I was like, yeah, let's see what Claude does. And I asked if it could, draw a picture of something. And said, no, I can't, but I can draw a diagram if you want. I'm like, really? All right, draw a diagram. And spit out this. And it's like so beautiful and nice. Now, the thing you have to remember as you're using these things is they're good at making things that sound right, and things that sound right often are right, but they're not always right. It'll put out some things that sound plausible. They're just made up because they don't have to be correct. They just have to sound correct. That have kind of a truthiness to them. Um, so I glanced over this diagram. I think it's right, but this is getting towards the edge of my knowledge of AI. So if there's anything that's actually wrong in this diagram, what? All right. If there's anything wrong in this diagram, I apologize. You have to take this with a grain of thought. Now, here's another way to do it. So this is a different AI. This was OpenAI, ChatGPT did this diagram. And it's way more artsy, right? It's like, it, 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 it has this feeling of, and it even said, it's like, do you want me to do something really interesting and evocative? And, you know, we'll get to that, man in the audience. The esteemed gentleman, uh, I'm supposed to repeat things for the studio for the at home audience. Mentioned that this is getting into RAGs, which is like a preprocessor for these things, and that's one of the words we'll look at in just a minute. In fact, is it the next screen? In fact, all right. How am I doing on time by the way? Am I using up too much? No, I'm about on track, I guess. Um, so it's AI, of course, artificial intelligence, not steak sauce. As a public official recently was on TV saying, you know, A1 technology is taking over. Don't make that mistake. Um, I just walked you through what LLMs are. Um, Now you go the words that you need to kind of learn so that people, because in order to communicate with the AI people, that they'll use these things, and they you just gotta like the prompt. It's not like the little C left arrow thing that you get on a computer screen. It's the stuff that you feed into the machine uh, to get the answers, and they can be like, super long and complex. They can be, you know, I, they vary up to like megabytes in size. So you can feed them super large things. But for our purposes, it's gonna have to think of it as just the stuff you're typing at it. But remember that it's not just like the last thing you typed. It's all the things you've typed in that session and possibly beyond. I mean, they have varying levels of memory that they can pull in, and they'll happily tell you if they know that things. I'll hop in and I talk to them like humans. I'll say, can you remember what we did last time? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. But uh, they tend to be honest, if not always. If they're not truthful, it's a mistake. Like they make funny mistakes, but they try to be straight. We're going to be in big trouble when one of them starts to like intentionally lie. They're probably not far from that. All right. Um, Token is like, they don't really talk words. They'll take words and like kind of split them into the concepts. So, you know, beautifully would be split into, beauty, and then full and Lee. Me, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it cuts it off. And in fact, anything that I did here is like an oversimplification of the more complicated thing that they're doing behind the scenes with that. Um, I was thinking about trying to walk through these, but yeah, most of them don't matter. The one thing that's kind of important, I think, um, are the last two at the top. There are RAG and MCP, and RAG is one of those crazy terms. Like you would never think those words for what it is, but it's basically a preprocessor. Like because of the way the LLMs work, where they take all this knowledge and boil it down. An important thing to know about that is it's not dynamic memory. They're not rethinking these things as they or as they think about it. They have it and then they're stuck in that point of time. So what a RAG does is it puts a current interface on that. It can do, searches for things that are on the net and understand news and developments and things. So RAGs are kind of the one of many cutting edges um, of of this whole world. Is that that's where a lot of people are doing their work um, to try to get past hallucinations and things like that. And then just briefly, because you'll hear it if you follow this stuff, MCP. Think of it as like a file format. Think of it as like JSON or HTML. It's a standard format for uh, storing connection information and model information among these things that you can plug from one to the other. It's picking up a lot of momentum. People seem excited, so look for exciting things in MCP. Uh, oh, did I get? Yeah, all right. So model names. Now, the comic strip you see there, ChatGPT just came up with that. I mentioned that, I asked that for a list of model names. I told it that I was giving a talk, and it says, "Would you like me to draw a comic strip that expresses this using your penguin?" And I'm like, okay. Get with this, which I think is pretty hilarious. Like I feel bad because it doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't know that it's funny, but you know, pretty good. Better than I could do. Um, anyway, this is just the alphabet soup of names, and every you know, the nerds who are into it like track which model they're in and the development of models. But it's too much. Unless you're smarter than me, too much to remember. You just have to know they kind of look like this. They're important. They're different. Some are more powerful. Some are better at things. Some are faster. They've got, like any kind of product, right? They have different pieces. And so every so often, switch around models just to see if anything, if something's not working or going slow or, you know, switch a model and it'll draw you a comic strip. You know, a lot of this is about you don't know what you don't know. And finally, last little slide. Hope I haven't used up all my time. Um, I've got a whole demo thing to go. All right. All right. Well, these are the AI enabled editors. And since I'm actually ran a little bit longer than I had wanted to, because I do that, uh, I'm just gonna not spend a lot of time on this screen and get to the meat of the presentation. We're gonna actually do some of this stuff right now, live on stage. Uh, it might be an awkward few seconds here while I figure out what's getting displayed on the screen. Yeah, it looks all right. Can you still see my little head in the bubble? Oh, all right. I'm not in the bubble. What's in the bubble? Oh, the bubble was from PowerPoint. Oh, all right. Yeah, yeah. All right. So here we are in a terminal window. I'm here on Stanford campus and tested the speeds earlier and found out that they have like a super fast internet. So I'm just gonna let these things actually run on their own. We'll call it webcam demo. So I am creating using the usual horrible syntax of Composer, and that's like 10 times faster than it does for me at home. But there it is. We've pulled down a new Drupal site um, and put it into a directory. And if you're familiar, you're not surprised to see that that's what it looks like. Uh, I'll now create a virtual machine in DDEV. We'll say config. We'll take all its defaults. Webcam demo sounds good. The code, the doc root is the web root. It's a Drupal 11 site, and it's all good. So we'll say, okay, DDEV, you did a good job. Go ahead and start. So now we're waiting for my machine to do here. After this completes, we'll well, that was reasonably fast. We'll run cursor, but here let's finish setting up the site. So let's go. We have launch. Let's see, did I put the browser in the right spot? There we go. Let me go quickly set up a generic Drupal site. We'll give it a set of credentials, translations. So it goes almost done. All right, here we go. Good. So we'll do this. We'll give it a terrible username. Did it let me get away with it? We don't want to check updates. Didn't continue. Yeah, I know, of course. It's a terrible password. Does the last few translations. Almost there. Come on, computer, you're using up my precious time here. All right, here we go. New Drupal site set to go. Um, let's refresh the screen so we don't have those messages there. The thing I want to show you is we're eventually going to go into this screen and make this better. So let's fire up Cursor. Now Cursor is the AI editor that I like to use. There's plenty of competition for it. Big new name is Windsurf, which is being demoed by my friend Mark Faree like right now. I'm totally gonna go, watch his presentation on video after this is done because I'm sad that we're at the same time. So it goes. So I'll do cursor, just the directory we're in, and it's popped up on another screen. This is, let's see, I can't see my Zoom audience anymore. Is this font size like ridiculously too small to see? I wonder if there's any easy way to make it bigger. Uh, uh, no, it'll still be tiny, tiny lettering. Oh, all right. Let me do that. Oh, yeah, we've got our little chat window here. Why don't we ask it? How do I make the fonts bigger in cursor? Is it worth it? It's not worth it. Settings, preferences. No, I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, cowbunga. Yeah, it goes to show like the AIs are helpful, but humans are ultimately, better. We're not out of date just yet. All right, so we are in Cursor here, and let's ask it what model it's using, just for fun. I think it's using um, Anthropic. Uh, what model are you? Now there's a no, I mean, wait, really? This is literally giving me those exact details like yesterday. So that's funny. All right. Anyway, but back to the task at hand here. Let's go here. I'm going to download uh, two quick things. DDev composer require Drupal slash admin menu so I can clear my caches, and Drupal slash module underscore filter, which is what we're going to mess around with. Let's get admin toolbar, probably. There we go. It's funny. I've typed that command like hundreds and hundreds of times, but what are you gonna do? All right, and let's go back into our Drupal interface here, and over here in the extend screen, let me turn on these things, and I'm going to turn on module filter. And what module filter does here is it punches up the extension screen here, which is pretty convenient. And it's pretty good, except I was always annoyed by how all the modules are displayed. Now it has checkboxes to affect those a little bit. And I'm sorry, I'm speeding up a little bit because I know I'm running out of time. So I'm if my instructions sound a little disconnected, I mean that's why I apologize. Um, so we need to get into Cursor. Um, and tell my little chat consultant I would like to add features to the module filter. And it says, so this is the fun part. So here's where this is like better than ChatGPT and stuff, right? Using directly, because working in the editor, I talked about prompts before, how the prompt is like the set of input here. When you use an AI enabled editor like this, the code base where you started from, what the editor can see is part of the prompt. So you can ask it questions and it will go hunt around in the code base and find things. And here it's finding, you know what? See, nah. I actually do really want to see what model I was using. Man/ for model menu. It doesn't seem to work. All right. The reason I just did that momentary aside is because when I did this before, I was using Claude Sonnet, and which I knew worked. So what has changed between yesterday and today is I don't know what model is powering this at the moment. And so we'll hope it works. It's giving a bunch of suggestions. You know what? Let me tell it. Oh, there's a controversy in the AI world these days as to whether you should be polite, whether you should say please or thank you to your models, because people are complaining that that's wasting energy, wasting time, wasting money. I do anyway. I say thank you. I say please. Um, I'm not sure, but I think it kind of responds to you the way you talk to it. And it's not really to be nice. There's languages are complicated. You actually convey things by when you say please or thank you and stuff like that, that whoever's listening to you can usefully interpret to sort of understand your needs better. They understand if you're unsure of something or if you're happy about something, and it can work those in. Um, I've got like 2 minutes left, so let's do the fast version. Please add the ability to toggle to display modules depending on their path. I feel like when I practiced this, I had better phrasing. But let's see. Let's see if this works as well as it did. I've got recordings. I checked. So if this crashes and burns, we'll I'll guide you to the recording where it worked. Um, but here, this is it's also one other thing where we're seeing the downside of it here is the cursor interfaces really work better on really big screens. If you've got, a 4K monitor, it likes to have lots of panes up, and the panes tend to be kind of big. And so here on this kind of small screen with large fonts that I'm using to make it um, more friendly for our television audience, it's not ideal. Like it's a good at home. Get the biggest monitor you can to use these things. I don't know what it's doing. I know the kind of thing that it's doing. Well, it's reading something, and because of kind of the small screen and large fonts, I lost the context, and also I was talking, so I wasn't really watching it. Like it said before it started doing this, why it's giving us an endless list of things in modules list form.php. Go ahead. We have a question. Yeah. You you opt. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, as a user using Cursor, do you have to sign into a model? And the answer to that is it's optional. There are setting screens where you can uh, choose which model to pick if you've paid for a model or have access to it. Uh, I I promised in the description that I would talk about costs, and I've run out of time and never actually learned all that much about costs in the first place. But what I can tell you is the free stuff runs out. Um, I personally pay $20 a month for Cursor, which seems to give me everything I wanted until today when it's not letting me choose models. Uh, but for $20 a month, I use it all day, and it seems to have things. All right, so let me try to finish it up in like the next minute. What did it say it did? I've made the following changes to add a new path filter, updated JavaScript, added the path filter will now allow you can filter modules by the path by typing in a new filter by path field. By typing in, really? Uh let's go now again, tiny screens. So ordinarily, I actually read the code that it writes. And even if it's beyond what I could write myself, which it typically is, you know, I kind of know how programs work, and you can get the speed of it. Like in general, I don't let it. I don't do vibe coding, which is one of the things. I don't let it blindly go off and change stuff. I look at every line that it writes, even if only quickly, because you can scan it, you can kind of figure it out. But the nice thing about you know AI for code is that if it doesn't work, it crashes right away, and it's helpful for that because working most of the time is good enough because you can catch when it doesn't work typically, at least so far. So I'm just going to accept the changes here, review next file. Uh, you know, Ordinarily I'd be interested in actually looking at what it did, but I'll just accept it, hope it works because out of time to do, hopefully see it work. Right, modify the JavaScript. All right, so I did that. All right, well, let's go see what it looks like, shall we? If we go over here, I probably have to, oh, it crashed. That's not great. I might have to clear the caches. Let's clear the cache. All right, now let's go to our extend menu. All right, well, that's the fun of a live demo. I could go back here. Let me we're out of time, right? Ashley? Yeah. Oh, is it is the Zoom screen? Oh, I actually wanted the other thing. I wanted it to be the slideshow. Looking here, right here. I just want to go back to this. If you want to zap those QR codes to get in touch with me, uh, and actually for what it's worth, one thing you all can get to, I'll just stop all this nonsense. Oh, it's even worse. I will update the session description. To searching for. I'll update the session description for this with links to this work because I gotta tell you I'm disappointed that it crashed at the end, but so goes. I'll debug that offline and post it to the thing and we'll see what happened. All right, thank you all for coming. That brings us to the end of the presentation.